Because when you look at PDP believe in what we call zoning between the north and the south, though it is not written in the constitution. It's just like a convention that both of us have agreed. You are going to rule for 8 years. The next region will also rule for 8 years. So there was a mutual agreement. But because of the death of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, of blessed memory, the political arrangement and arithmetic changed. So the North wanted power to shift back in 2015.
In politics, the most dangerous mistake is not choosing the wrong opponent, but choosing the wrong standard bearer. Good morning and welcome to The Big Story. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakun. Today we're examining a question that may very well define Nigeria's next electoral chapter: candidate selection and electoral success, while the opposition's choice could decide victory or defeat. Across the opposition landscape, fault lines are becoming increasingly visible. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, remains entangled in internal wranglings, leadership tosses, and unresolved zoning debate that threaten cohesion and electoral clarity. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, do emerging as a potential coalition platform, has yet to clearly articulate its zoning formula or rally behind a consensus candidate, even as multiple aspirants and their supporters lay claim to political superiority. The Labour Party, on its part, continues to wrestle with leadership dispute and strategic uncertainty. While intentions have been declared and ambitions made public, the absence of internal harmony raises questions about preparedness and electoral strength. History teaches us that elections are often lost long before ballots are cast, lost in boardrooms, party congresses, and flawed consensus building processes. Where zoning is mismanaged, grievances deepen. Where candidates are imposed, legitimacy weakens. But where credible, inclusive, and strategic choices are made, even an opposition can transform momentum into victory. To help us interrogate this crucial moment, I'm joined by Ignatius Ofino Abosalume, a researcher and public affairs analyst whose work straddles history, political behavior, and democratic processes. Ofino, welcome on board this morning.
Good morning, Oluwayemi Adelakun, aka Yimi. I'm so delighted with the script.
Okay, thank you.
So philosophical.
Thank you.
I'm inspired.
Thank you.
When I read the script,
Thank you.
I'm inspired.
Thank you. You're
Good
about
to see you this morning.
Same here. You're about to get more inspired this morning. So let's start from here. Of course, you're a researcher, and I want you to tell me now, how important, is the candidate when it comes to winning an election in Nigeria, looking at the political trajectory of Nigeria in the last 30 years?
There is one thing you must know about politics. Politics has what we call plethora definitions.
Okay.
Now, there is one thing this man said, Niccolo Machiavelli, when he wrote his book titled The Prince. He said, politicians are typically held in low esteem because they are perceived to be power-seeking hypocrites who conceal personal ambition and hide behind the rhetorics of public service. That is one. Okay. Then when you're talking about politics, politics simply means the scrabble for power. It's all about the game of power. Who controls what and who gets what. That is what politics is all about. But when you're talking about the political class is just a representation of the larger society, or what can be best described as the microcosm of the larger society. So when we are talking about politics, the people should be more involved. When you're talking about the political class, they are just a microcosm of the larger society. Who is to blame? You blame the electorate more, not even the political class. The political class have a way of floating their own standard bearer, whether through imposition, whether through selective process. They know how to do it in their own way. But it's now left for the people to decide in choosing the right choice.
What if it doesn't appeal to the electorate? I mean the candidate now.
Let me give you an example. There is what we call plurality democracy. Okay. A multi-party system where you have more than 2 political parties. In Nigeria today, we are practicing what we call multi-political system. That's the type of system we are practicing in our own country in Nigeria. But we have two formidable parties in Nigeria, the ruling APC. Then we have what we call the opposition PDP. Why? Because PDP has once ruled Nigeria for 16 years. But what about other parties? We have other parties too in Nigeria. We have the Labour Party, we have the African Democratic Congress, we have the New Nigerian People's Party. So the choice is now left in the hands of the electorate. Let me give an example. People keep saying that in the midst of two evil, you go for the lesser evil. But evil is evil. Evil will never proceed good. Evil will never yield good. So the problem I've always lied in the hands of the electorate. Before we used to blame the politician, I say blame the politician less. Blame the people more. Because we are in the midst of several choices. You have the willpower. Let me give you an example. How will you continue to vote for an individual or a political party that have deprived you of quality life, that have deprived you of quality education, that have deprived you of quality healthcare delivery system, that have deprived you of what we call quality infrastructure?
So speaking of that, why do you think the people should be blamed more? Because, I mean, a lot of Nigerians have, said that they will not even go out to vote, because they are not satisfied with the candidate, of certain political parties.
Let me give you an example. Multi-party democracy is what we are playing now, that plays out in Nigeria. Must it be PDP? Must it be APC? Must it be NNPP? What about other parties? That's the way to go about it. You know that this particular person is an oppressor. He has denied you and your children quality education, quality healthcare delivery system, quality road infrastructure, and you are aware about it. And you still say that you want to become indifferent. Are you being rational? Are you a rational thinker? You should be involved in voting. Because when you are talking about the politicians, they hold your political destiny at ransom. They hold your economic destiny at ransom. They are the one to decide the economic policy. They are one to decide what we call healthcare delivery system, the healthcare policy. They decide the educational policy. And you have no choice. But you can only have your choice during election. And you are now saying that you don't want to vote. Most of them are political merchants. So somebody that is going to determine your political destiny, you should be more involved in deciding who you want to govern you. So the people should be blamed the more, not the politicians. In the past, I used to blame the politicians. But for now, I blame them less. I blame the people more because we are in the midst of several alternatives.
Okay, speaking about candidacy now and of course electoral success, let's start from the ADC. Recently, the former Ekiti State Governor Ayo Fayoshi submitted that Peter Obi, that recently defected to the ADC, is the only life of that coalition party. And then quite a number of supporters of Peter Obi have also come out to say that, if you don't give him the ticket, we are not going to support anything they say. Supporters of Atiku talk about Dele Momodu came out recently to say, okay, Atiku is also like the best person to contest for presidency come 2027. Talk about Amechi. Even the supporters, have also come out to talk. What you make of all of this? Because at the end of the day, some Nigerians are saying ADC, as it stands now, is looking like PDP with new futures.
Must it be Peter Obi? Must it be Alhaji Atiku Abubakar? Who says that Oluyemisi Adelakun cannot emerge as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
I'm not partisan.
We have to be honest to ourselves. Out of 230 million people, must it be Atiku? Must it be Peter Obi? Must it be Peter Ayodele Fayose? We have to think deeply. Most of the politicians we are having in this country, most of them are political merchants. They have sold out our political destiny for their own good at our own expense. There is what we call intellectual revolution. There is what we call protest vote. Those parties that have denied you quality rural infrastructure, those parties that have denied you quality education, quality healthcare delivery system, you have to vote them out of power. That's the way to go about it. Not coming and telling me that it is Peter Obi, it is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Who says that Ofino cannot emerge as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? We have to make a rethink as Nigerians. That is why we are getting it wrong. We all focus attention on Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. We focus attention on Mr. Peter Obi.
But these are the people who are interested in contesting. So whose fault is this?
What about the other people?
Mention names to me.
We have other people that are also contesting.
Okay.
We have other people that are willing to contest.
Okay.
But there is one thing you must understand is that Nigerian politics today is very costly. But the so-called, the oppressed, the time has come for them to congregate together. Won't stop the masses floating their own socialist party, floating a candidate they can trust. That is how to go about it. When you're talking about Peter Obi, it's a symbol of capitalism. When you talk about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, it's a symbolism of what? Capitalism. When you're talking about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's a capitalist to the core. But the oppressed masses, they need a socialist that will lead them. So you have to blame the people more, not even the politicians. The politicians even don't want the people to cast their vote. What they want is this. They want party members to do the election. And when party members keep doing the election, we will keep getting the same result. And the people will become more impoverished. So the people must make a rethink. I'm just trying to figure something this morning. I want to configure something on this platform this morning. That the change will come from the people, not from the political class.
Okay, speaking of change now, how do you think the ADC can make this work? Because, I mean, APC has been ruling for the past 10 years now, over 10 years now. And then how do you think the ADC can make this work? Because people are saying that if care is not taken, ADC might also, fall into the era of 2023.
Is ADC a credible alternative? Look at the personalities that are there. We have some of them that have mortgaged the political destiny of this country. It is in this country you see ex-convicts becoming a president, becoming a governor. Criminals. We have to be frank and say, why is the masses? There must be a change. There is one thing my friend said. President Donald Trump of the United States. He said, I'm no longer giving you visa. Go back to your country. Go and develop your country. Is it not making a sense? Ofino, your father's house is leaking. Go and repair the roof. Is that derogatory? No! He has raised an observation for me to make correction. So we are having a problem in this country, and the people are to be blamed the more. Not even the political class, because the political class, they run a caucus among themselves. Are you not surprised? If PDP becomes the ruling party today, those in the opposition will defect. If PDP loses out and APC becomes the ruling party, those in PDP will also defect.
Okay, Ofino,
at the expense
okay.
of the welfare of the people.
If you think ADC is not a good alternative.
No, I'm not saying that it's not a... I'm just asking a rhetorical question.
Okay, I get you.
Is ADC the credible alternative?
Okay, if that's a good argument, what about PDP now? Because recently, INEC is yet to recognize any of the factions. Speaking of the national chairman, Damagum, actually, handed over to Turaki. INEC is yet to recognize that. And speaking of the faction of Wiki, so there's a tussle in the PDP now. And then the people are clamoring for change. A lot of Nigerians are saying, okay, we still want to retain APC. Some are saying, okay, we want another leader. We want a leader to come from another opposition party. What do you make of all of this? Because we have listed the issues going on in the ADC. What about the PDP now?
I cannot speak in proxy for PDP, but PDP has failed Nigeria in the area of opposition. Then we are supposed to play the role of a strong opposition. If not for the greed of Jonathan, PDP would not have lost that election in 2015.
You think he was greedy?
Greedy!
In what sense?
If not for the death of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Jonathan would not have emerged as president. If not for the imposition made by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, imposing Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and Goodluck Jonathan in order to compensate the people of the Niger Delta who were agitating for resource control, Jonathan would not have become president.
Or he won independently.
But there is one thing you must know.
Okay.
Nigeria would have been a one-party state under PDP. I stand to be corrected.
Because PDP ruled for 16 years?
No, let's assume.
Okay.
If not for the greed of Jonathan, PDP would have been ruling Nigeria till now. You know, the North wanted power to shift back to them. You see, the death of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua changed the political arithmetic. Because when you look at PDP believe in what we call zoning between the North and the South, though it is not written in the Constitution. It's just like a convention that both of us have agreed. You are going to rule for 8 years. The next region will also rule for 8 years. So there was a mutual agreement. But because of the death of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, of blessed memory, the political arrangement and arithmetic changed. So the North wanted power to shift back in 2015. But because of Jonathan's greed, he lost out. I'm saying it on this platform. Jonathan's greed caused the defeat of PDP.
Okay, if you think Jonathan is greedy, what about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is trying to go for the second time now?
He has every moral right to go for a second term. Because let me give you an instance. Okay. Jonathan, when you look at Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's a political genius. Tinubuism is an ideology. You know what he did? He felt that the only way to defeat a sitting president was for them to form what we call coalition. So when they organized that coalition, 5 different political parties came together. We had the ACN, Action Congress, the CPC, Congress for Positive Change. Look at what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did. He did not say, I want to be a vice president for Major General Muhammadu Buhari. He said, Muhammadu Buhari, you can go ahead to be the standard bearer. At the end of the day, they nominated Osinbajo to be his vice. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was watching. You can see for 8 years, when Muhammadu Buhari ruled, he did not say anything. He was watching. Even when people were casting aspersion on Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that the man you brought to rule us is not ruling well. What did he tell them? He said, don't worry. In 2023, I'm going to contest.
Is PDP not trying to do this?
So the man is a political genius. Okay. And you can see now, he's the incumbent president. And he knows how to wed power. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu no be Jonathan. I repeat again. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, no be Jonathan. He knows how to wed power. Do you know how many senators Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sponsored? Members, Federal House of Representatives, those that he sponsored and they became governors. Do you think they just installed him as the Jagaban Bogu in Niger State, Northern Region? So here they call somebody Jagaban Bogu in Niger State. That shows that he has made sure, he ensured that he built bridges across the geopolitical zones in Nigeria.
Fino, going back to the PDP now, do you think it's possible for them to have a flag bearer for presidency in 2027, looking at the fact that INEC is here to recognize, the ruling chairman?
There is an internal crisis in PDP. There is also an internal crisis in APC. But the difference is this. APC has a mechanism and a way of reconciling their own differences. But in PDP, I wouldn't know, because of their greed and personal ambition. That is what is causing the defeat and the problem in that party till now.
So a candidate might not emerge, that's what you are saying, because of the
if the candidate actually emerge, will such candidate be recognized by INEC? When you are talking about the electoral success, the electoral process is there. There is a way let me give you an instance. There are 3 ways you have to nominate your candidate. 1, we have through consensus. And who is going to be in charge of consensus? Members, Board of Trustees, the National Executive Committee, the National Working Committee of that party, based on their constitution. That shows that some people you have to step down for other person. You have to tell the world the reason why you decided to adopt a particular person as your standard bearer. Then what we call direct primary. In that direct primary, what does it mean? All registered members of a particular political party, we organize a congress. Then you now queue and cast your ballot on the candidate you want to represent your party. Then what we call indirect primaries. In that indirect primaries, what they do in the first instance is this. The party members will organize, the party will organize what we call a congress. The party member will now nominate delegates. So in that delegate now, the delegate will represent your local government. Those that will represent the senatorial district will emerge. Those that will now represent the state will emerge. They will now go to the national convention. At the level of the national convention, those delegates will now nominate someone who will become a flag bearer of the party.
Okay, Ofino, let's talk about Labour Party now. We've spoken about the ADC and, of course, the PDP now. And we have factions in the Labour Party too. We have the Nenandi faction, we have the Bure faction. But something funny happened in the last few days. Immediately, Peter Obi left Labour Party for the ADC. INEC came out to submit that Abure is no longer the national chairman of the party, though they are yet to work on their website in terms of changing the name now. Do you see, Labour Party, coming up, or let me say, gathering the number of votes they were able to gather, in the last election, looking at this, tosses within the political party? Because we are talking about, the candidate, or let me say the flag bearer of the opposition party, whether they are going to fail or lose, based on the person that, they put forward as their candidate. What do you make of the Labour Party as it speaks now that Peter Obi is out of the party, and then Dati Baba Ahmed, his running mate in 2023, came out to say he's going to contest?
Centuries paribus, all things being equal, the Labour Party was even supposed to be the ruling party in this country. Was supposed to be if the Nigerian Labour Congress were well organized and the Trade Union Congress. But there is one thing I keep discovered. Labour Party may work well in UK. Is it actually working well in Nigeria? Civil servants are not supposed to be partisan. So that was why from the onset, I disagree. I disagreed on the fact that the Nigerian Labour Party, Labour Congress, decided to have a political wing. That is disloyalty. There is what we call oath of allegiance as a civil servant. A civil servant must not be partisan.
You are saying that the NLC is working closely with the Labour Party?
Yes!
Okay.
There is disloyalty in the civil service. Sometimes APC might decide to introduce an economic policy, but because civil servants are biased, the tendency is there to ensure that they frustrate that policy. Are you not seeing it from that angle? Labour Party is not supposed to be registered in Nigeria in the first place.
Why?
I'm saying it. Civil servants are supposed to be loyal.
It was a huge thought force. I mean,
no! They are supposed to be loyal to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a pressure group, fine. The Nigerian Labour Congress is there as a pressure group. The TUC is there as a pressure group. Now you went ahead to register Labour Party.
This party
has a political party.
Ofino, this party has a ruling governor, Alex Otti.
It doesn't count.
Really? A ruling governor?
No, it doesn't count.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. I was just looking. I remember when I was young in the civil service, there used to be what we call housing loan, car loan. That is what the Nigerian Labour Congress supposed to be fighting for. Not registering a political party. That political party they register, I see it as a finger of conspiracy against the workings of government. Civil servants make the government to work. Let me give an example. Do you know what I'm trying to explain here now? APC is different from Labour Party. APC is now the ruling party. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu now decide to introduce an economic policy that will work well for the overall development of the country. But civil servants, they are partisan. They belong to Labour Party. Do you think they will allow that economic policy to fly?
Okay, before we conclude now, let's talk about Dati Baba Ahmed. Do you think he has the capacity to slug it out with other flag bearers across the opposition parties? Should he become the flag bearer?
I cannot speak in proxy for Labour Party. You know, I've made my own opinion that in the first instance, Nigeria Labour Congress was not supposed to float a political party in this country. UK is not the same thing with the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are not the same. Do you know in the civil service, we have what we call divided interest? Are we supposed to have a divided interest in the civil service? Let me give you an example. The Nigerian armed forces are not allowed to vote. They have to be neutral. The Nigerian police force are not allowed to vote. They are supposed to be neutral. Civil servant can vote. If any civil servant today decide that he want to contest for any political position, what do you do? What is the rule? You have to tender what? Your resignation.
Okay, Ofido.
That's the rule.
Let's conclude now. Looking at all the opposition parties we have in this country now, the major ones, Labour Party, PDP, and the ADC, what do you think is their strongest advantage? Looking at the 2027 election, is he the candidate now or the political party?
For now, they don't really know what they are actually looking for. Nigerians want a change. I'm not the one that will speak on behalf of Nigeria. But there is one thing I've discovered, that APC came into power through propaganda and through coalition. And the only way to defeat APC, although I'm not demarketing APC, okay, I'm not demarketing them, but the only way to really defeat APC is through the way of coalition too. That shows that ADC, Labour Party, NNPP, PDP should come together and float a single flag bearer.
Is that possible? Because even in ADC as we speak now, they are very difficult to actually say, okay, this is the person.
That's the way to go about it.
Now talk about all
to form a unity government. But when it comes to issue of governors, senators, members House of Representatives, State House of Assembly, they can decide to float their own candidate. But when it comes to the level of the presidency, they should adopt a candidate.
But in the ADC, we have quite a number of big shots. Do you think all the other political parties must come together to flag,
that is the only way to defeat APC. Do you know what it means, Emilio Khan? He was not in power, and he made that bold statement. Do you know that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself is a thesis on his own? Someone should write a thesis about His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the incumbent president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You know what he said? He said, Emilio Khan.
So you are saying...
And he won that election when he was not even in power. Against all, darkest all. Let alone now that he's in power.
So you are saying it is difficult to defeat APC as we speak until about 4 political parties can come together. That's when they can take over power.
Politically.
Okay.
If they can be able to align together politically and float a candidate that the people will admire, a candidate that the people can see as a father figure. Nigerians actually need a change. Although I am not demarketing APC. I am not demarketing Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But the only problem I'm having is this. There should be in our own electoral process.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to a situation in which, let's assume, INEC registered 100 million people. Then the 2/3 of 100 million is what? 67 million. Then in the new electoral act, it should be stipulated that before you can be declared as the president, 67 million voters must cast their vote. And out of that 67 million voters, you must have what called a simple majority. And what's the simple majority? What's the half of 67? The half of 67 will give you 34 million. So that will ginger the political class to mobilize the people to vote. What we are having in this country is today, INEC registered 91 million voters in 2023. At the end of the day, the total vote count was less than 25 million. It does not speak well about the giant of Africa. That is what I'm more bothered about. I want a situation in which 2/3 of the total registered voter it will now be stipulated in our law that out of 100 million registered voters, 67 million must cast their vote on that day. Okay. And before you can be declared the winner, you must have no less than 34 million votes.
It
will make it very competitive.
Okay, we need to go, honestly, because of time. But a big thanks to you for joining this conversation.
I'm delighted to be here.
Though a lot of analysts have argued that until some political parties, decide to flag the best person, a lot of persons will not come out to vote. Elections reward preparation, punish division, and remember, mistakes long after slogans are forgotten. As we have explored today, the strength of an opposition is not measured only by public dissatisfaction, but the ruling party by its own internal discipline, strategic clarity, and capacity to make wise choices at critical movement. From the PDP's prolonged internal dispute to ADC's unresolved zoning questions and Labour Party's leadership uncertainties, one reality stands out. Candidate selection is not a technical formality, it is a decisive political act. When mismanaged, it fractures alliances and weakens voter trust. When done right, it can unify diverse interests and tilt the balance of power. The road to electoral success begins with credibility, inclusiveness, and strategic foresight. Whether the opposition can rise above internal contradictions may well determine not just who contests, but who governs. My thanks to Ignatius Bosalome-Fino, Research and Public Affairs Analyst, for his insight this beautiful morning. My name is Oluwayemi Adelako, and this has been The Big Story. Now we take a short break, and when we come back, we move on to Trend Watch. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.